Hello, I'm Elena Brooks. For almost 3 years, I worked as the executive assistant to Lucas Grant, CEO of a high-end consulting firm in Manhattan. To most, he was untouchable, charismatic, successful, a man with presence. But behind that polished exterior was someone far more dangerous. I was 27 when I took that job, and I remember feeling lucky to be working so close to a man like him. He noticed me early, praised my work ethic, smiled longer than necessary, said things like, "You've got real potential." At first, it felt harmless. I chalked it up to mentorship. I had no idea I was being groomed. He played the long game. Lucas wasn't careless. He was calculated. He didn't make obvious moves. He'd ask me to stay late, order dinner to the office, share stories about his so-called miserable marriage. "You deserve better than this office," he once said, brushing his fingers along mine as he handed over a report. I'd be lying if I said it didn't feel flattering. He made me feel special, like I was the exception in a sea of disposable employees. I'd never had power like that before, and the illusion of it was addicting. The line between personal and professional blurred slowly, like fog creeping in before a storm. It wasn't one moment, it was dozens. Long stares across boardrooms, light touches that lingered, texts after midnight asking about nothing and everything. Lucas had a way of making me feel needed, like I was the only person who truly understood him. I kept telling myself I was imagining things, that I was in control. But deep down, I knew better. I wasn't falling in love, I was falling into a trap. And Lucas had done this before. I just didn't realize I was the next chapter. It became more than work. I started dressing differently, staying later, hoping for those private moments in his office. He told me things no boss should tell a secretary. About his wife Camille, how cold she was, how distant, how he regretted marrying for image, not love. And I, like a fool, listened. I comforted him, validated him, and eventually, yes, I slept with him. I thought it meant something, that maybe, after years of loyalty and sacrifice, I'd be more than just his assistant. But Lucas wasn't building a future with me. He was building a lie, brick by brick. And I was too blind to see it. I wasn't just a secretary anymore, I was his secret. Lucas gave me access to everything: private documents, sensitive emails, and even the passcode to his personal phone. He called me his right hand, told me he couldn't trust anyone else. I convinced myself this was more than lust, more than convenience. He started hinting at promoting me, saying I deserved more responsibility, more influence. He even floated the idea of us starting something together, a side firm we could run quietly until he left Camille. I ate up every word. I believed him. I wanted to, because admitting the truth meant admitting I was being used. He knew how to keep me close, little acts of affection that made me feel chosen. He'd brush past me and let his hand rest a second too long, whisper compliments when no one was around. "You're the smartest person in this building," he'd say, locking eyes with that same intensity he used to charm clients. I fell deeper into the fantasy, thinking I was different, special, chosen. I didn't realize then that he was a master manipulator, feeding me just enough hope to keep me tethered, never quite enough clarity to see the chains. He controlled everything without ever raising his voice. I missed the signs because I didn't want to see them. The way he'd disappear on weekends, how his promises shifted with his moods, how his talk of divorcing Camille always came with a "not yet." He painted her as the villain, but never seemed in a hurry to leave her. Still, I justified it. I told myself power takes patience. Maybe he was protecting me. Maybe the timing wasn't right. Every lie he told, I made excuses for, and every time he made me feel like the only one, he was probably telling another woman the same thing. I was spellbound, and he knew it. The job became a blur of devotion and desperation. I worked harder, stayed longer, covered for his absences, cleaned up after his missteps. He would thank me with soft smiles and subtle promises, just enough to make me believe I mattered. Behind closed doors, I gave him everything: my loyalty, my body, my silence. And in front of everyone else, I was just the organized assistant who made his world function. I became addicted to his approval, measuring my worth by his attention. But the closer I got to him, the more I realized he kept his real world locked away. I wasn't in it, I was just orbiting round it. It ended on a Wednesday. No warning, no explanation. I walked into the office like any other morning, coffee in hand, ready to start the day. But security stopped me. My badge was deactivated. HR handed me a white envelope and wouldn't meet my eyes. Inside was a single sentence: "Your employment with Grant Consulting has been terminated effective immediately." No signature, no call, nothing. Lucas didn't even have the guts to face me. The same man who whispered promises in my ear after midnight meetings had erased me like a typo. I stood there, numb, humiliated, and hollow. And in that silence, something inside me shattered. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I went home, sat in the dark, and opened my personal hard drive. I had everything: years of backups, messages, recordings, spreadsheets, financial files. Things Lucas had forgotten I had access to. Things I'd saved instinctively, like breadcrumbs leading back to the truth. I pored over every detail, this time not as his assistant, but as his ghost. And the deeper I dug, the more his lies unraveled. Camille wasn't distant or cold. She was charitable, brilliant, loved by everyone. Lucas hadn't just lied to her, he'd lied to me about her. About everything. What hurt most wasn't the job or the betrayal, it was realizing how many times I had protected him. I had covered for him when he was out cheating. I'd lied to Camille on calls, pretending he was in meetings. I had defended him to coworkers when they whispered rumors. I had been the shield he used to hide behind. But now I saw him clearly: a coward, a fraud, a predator in a designer suit. He didn't love me. He didn't value me. I was a disposable asset. And suddenly, the pain turned into something colder, sharper, more dangerous: resolve. I started compiling everything, not out of spite but out of justice. I cataloged financial discrepancies, questionable vendor accounts, duplicated invoices, emails with unethical instructions. I had voice memos of him bragging about manipulating investors, screenshots of his flings with other women, proof that I wasn't his only secret. And as I stared at the pile of digital evidence, I knew what I had to do. Not for revenge, not for closure, but because men like Lucas Grant build empires on the silence of women like me. And I was done being silent. If he thought firing me was the end, he was about to learn what real consequences look like. I started with Camille. She deserved the truth before the world got it. I packaged the evidence carefully: no threats, no notes, just facts. Screenshots of late-night bookings, receipts for gifts he claimed were business expenses, transcripts of emails I wasn't supposed to see. I sent it all anonymously. A week passed in silence. Then, everything cracked. Camille disappeared from social media. Lucas showed up late to work, frazzled, disconnected. 2 days later, a tabloid broke the story of an affair and financial misconduct involving a high-level executive, his face blurred, but obvious to those of us who knew. The whispers turned into sirens, and the real fallout had just begun. The firm's board launched a surprise audit. I knew exactly what they'd find because I gave it to them through a confidential tip line, timed perfectly with quarterly reviews. Clients began backing out. Internal memos leaked. Lucas was called into meetings he never returned from. His name vanished from the company website. And Camille, she filed for divorce and froze every shared account. I watched it unfold like a movie I'd already seen in my mind 100 times. Everything he used to define himself, his reputation, his marriage, his career was collapsing, and not a soul came to save him. It wasn't about rage anymore. It was about truth. For every time he made me feel small, I made sure the truth spoke louder. I submitted evidence to the legal board, exposing the financial irregularities he forced me to manage. I uploaded anonymous documentation to whistleblower networks and industry regulators. I didn't hack anything. I didn't fabricate a single detail. I just exposed what was always there. He built his kingdom on secrets, and I simply turned on the lights. Each piece of information I shared tightened the noose he'd tied with his own ego. He didn't just fall. He imploded. I heard through former coworkers that Lucas tried to spin the story, claimed he was targeted, framed, unfairly treated, but nobody believed him. Not when his own files contradicted every lie. His office was cleared out, his board seat revoked, his license was suspended pending investigation. Camille got the house, the cars, and the last word. I didn't ask for credit. I didn't gloat. I watched from a distance, quietly satisfied. He fired me after using me without conscience, without apology. But I didn't just end his career. I ended his image, his comfort, his delusion that he was untouchable. And I did it with the same silence he tried to bury me with. It's strange how calm the world feels once the storm is over. I thought revenge would leave me feeling bitter or empty, but all I felt was clarity. I didn't ruin Lucas Grant's life. He did that himself. I just stopped protecting him. What I lost in that office, my job, my blind faith, my innocence, I replaced with something stronger. I reclaimed my voice. I look back now and realize how tightly I clung to his validation, how I made excuses for his every lie. I was surviving in someone else's shadow, mistaking crumbs for care. But now, I walk in light, with nothing to hide and no one to chase. Camille eventually reached out, not with anger, but with understanding. She thanked me for revealing the truth, said she wished she had seen it sooner. We weren't friends, but we were two women cut by the same blade. There was healing in that honesty, a strange sense of sisterhood in our shared betrayal. I moved cities, started fresh, joined a legal research firm that valued integrity over charm. I kept my head down, but my back straight. I didn't need to advertise what I'd done. My peace wasn't loud, it was quiet, earned, and deeply personal. Sometimes I still hear his voice in my dreams, not as a threat, but as a warning, a reminder of who I used to be and how close I came to losing myself completely. I don't date much anymore. Trust isn't easy to rebuild when it's been weaponized against you. But I'm learning, slowly. I don't need someone to complete me or rescue me. I rescued myself, and that's the most powerful kind of freedom, knowing I didn't break when he discarded me. I adapted, I planned, I executed, and I survived. That's more than he'll ever be able to say. Every now and then I hear rumors about Lucas' desperate job applications, awkward social encounters, people avoiding his name like it's cursed. And maybe it is. Actions echo, long after intentions fade. As for me, I'm no longer haunted by what happened. I don't carry shame, just lessons. What he took from me was temporary. What I built from it is mine forever. I don't need revenge stories to justify my strength anymore. But if you've ever been used, discarded, or betrayed, just know this: you're not weak for breaking. You're powerful for putting yourself back together, quietly, precisely, on your own damn terms.